Welcome back, everyone, to the Mom with Moms podcast. Lots of exciting things happening this spring. We're gearing up for this is our second annual Springtime Festival coming up next week. And I was thinking on the way here, it's funny how like this in the spring, you never know what you're going to get weather-wise. It's, in the morning, this morning the heat could have been on. Now, like as the day's progressing, I'm warm, so you don't know how to dress, and you also don't know how to plan. We have a communion party coming up on Sunday for my daughter that is supposed to be partly outside. I don't know how well that's going to go. And then the following weekend we have this big event, and I'm just like praying to those weather gods that it goes in my direction, because it's such a crapshoot with planning, which is what you get for planning outdoor events in the spring, I guess, right?
But it's worth it when the weather is great.
Yes, right? I know, and it all comes together. So let's hope, right? But thank you so much for joining me today. Today we have Andrea McAfee. I butchered it. I did. I said I was going to, and I did. And from the Surrogacy Center of Philadelphia, thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm excited to connect with you. We've been working together for a couple of years now with Mom with Moms, and a great partnership to discuss all things surrogacy in our area. But we have met once in person. It was actually the first event that I had.
Yeah.
That's close to 2 years ago now here at Bellworks, which was the Mommy and Me fair that we did, right? So I met you then, and we've connected a bit over the phone over the years, but I'm really excited to delve into surrogacy and all the great things that you do for families, and and the moms who become surrogates. So tell me where are you from?
So I'm actually from Hawaii. So
Okay.
pretty far from the Philadelphia area, but my husband's from Philly. And so when he retired from the military, we settled back in the greater Philadelphia area.
Okay. And you have a center in Hawaii too.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's actually the first agency that I started over 15 years ago.
So you started before you met your husband?
Yeah.
Ah. So what did you grew up in Hawaii?
Yeah.
And you went to school for what?
So I actually came all the way to the East Coast for school.
Okay.
I did go to school for business, and then I moved from Boston to Washington, D.C., where I did my graduate work, and I actually was working for the government, so completely unrelated to this type of work. I was an egg donor when I was in college.
Okay.
I did that 3 times, and that's actually how I got involved in the whole third-party reproduction world. I started speaking at conferences and other support groups, just talking about my experience as an egg donor. And through that, I started to get to know other folks that work in this arena, clinics and attorneys and counselors. And so that's how I started my first agency, was because those folks said, hey, there's not services back in your home state.
Right.
There were fertility clinics, but not surrogacy agencies. And so a lot of folks were going to the mainland and to California to get those services, which was taking an expensive process.
Yeah, adding
and
another
doubling
layer
that
of cost. Yeah, right.
And so that's how I decided to start the surrogacy agency in Hawaii.
Okay.
And that's been very successful. And then when we moved here to Philadelphia, I was asked to do the same thing.
Okay. And so how did you meet your husband?
So he was in the military. I actually was working for a nonprofit. I was volunteering it's called Operation Paperback. And so I had sent him books and corresponded with him and his unit that was deployed at the time to Iraq. And so we actually started a friendly correspondence relationship first.
Oh, that's so nice.
And then when he came...
It's like old school online
Yeah.
dating. It's like before the internet.
And then when he came back to Hawaii, I went home and met him in person, and we very quickly fell in love, and that was that.
That's so nice. So he was from Philly, and
Yes.
you decided that you wanted to raise your family here.
Yeah, so after he got out, we moved around the world. We lived in Hawaii. My first daughter was born there. Then we moved to Germany. My second daughter was born in Germany.
Wow.
And then we came back here to this kind of general area. He was stationed at Fort Dix in Jersey. And that's when he retired. And so we kind of got off the Army train here and settled in here. And it met all of our needs really well.
So you were able to run the Surrogacy Center in Hawaii, like overseas. Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
Through like just Zooms
remote
and
work.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
wow.
So I've been doing remote work for a long time.
Yeah, so
all
COVID
of
did
this,
nothing impacted to you at all.
no
Like
impacts
just another
whatsoever.
day
Yeah,
at the office.
exactly.
That's so interesting. Wow. So Fort Dix, that makes sense. So that, it's not too far. And obviously, he knew Philly very well. So
Yes.
very nice. So you have two
girls.
Yeah. And how old are they?
They are 11 and 14.
Oh,
so they're not little anymore.
I know, it goes quickly, right?
It goes so fast.
All of a sudden you blink and they're in high school, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So tell me, I have so many questions about surrogacy. I think so many moms, hear about, or, people that want to become parents have questions about surrogacy and know people that have done it or maybe hear about it or see it on TV, right? I think a lot of celebrities are good poster children, right, for ambassadors, right, for surrogacy. But what drew you to really, wanting to start the clinic and like go through the process of what exactly it looks like for a parent who is interested in surrogacy?
Sure. So if you're a parent that's interested in surrogacy, I mean, we would do a consult with you and really kind of figure out what's going on with your situation. Typically, parents have gone through IVF already. They've been unable to get pregnant themselves. And so they have those embryos stored and frozen. And so after very often repeat miscarriage and unable to carry, then they'll contact us and say, we have an issue with the carrying part. We have embryos that have been made. And so, we run through the entire process with them, all the way through from matching them with a surrogate, all the way through the case management process. So the process is about 12 to 15 months long. And as an agency, we handle everything.
Okay.
The coordination with the medical clinics, the legal aspects of it, because it is a contract-based arrangement. We handle all the financials. So because there is a lot of money that's exchanged, everything goes through escrow accounts. We handle all the insurance needs. Medical insurance is incredibly complex, as everybody knows.
Right. So is it covered through insurance?
The maternity care for the surrogate can be covered through her policy.
Wow.
We do have to look at the policy and check for any fine print. But if it is covered, then that's great. And parents generally just pay any kind of co-payments that you would if you went to your OB, the $10 or $20.
Wow.
The clinic portion of it, working with the fertility clinic and meaning the embryo transfer, that is not covered by insurance. And so parents do have to figure out how to fund that themselves.
Oh, interesting.
So we do handle that whole piece of it, the legal, the medical, the financial, but then there's also just the relationship component, right? And so our case managers really work to make sure everyone has open communication, that everyone's staying well informed and very comfortable with the level of communication that's happening, letting them know what the next steps are, and then communicating with, the hospital and any other professionals as it comes to, delivery.
Right.
So we handle all of those steps as well.
So when parents who are looking into surrogacy, is it usually like a last resort? Do you see it has it evolved over the last 15 years in terms of parents who maybe even haven't even tried IVF or just have made a decision that that's not something, maybe they don't want to carry their own child for different reasons, but what are some of the things that you have seen over the last decade?
For sure. So there are many reasons. Of course, we think of the medical and the infertility reasons, right? But then, you have folks that, for instance, maybe they have secondary infertility. So they had one child and they can't carry a second one. Or they've had complications with a previous pregnancy that makes it unsafe for them to carry in the future.
Okay.
And so we help those parents as well. Sometimes we have single parents by choice. So we have either a single intended father or a single intended mother. They create embryos with usually donated either sperm or eggs, and then they need somebody to carry for them. We work with a lot of same-sex couples, and so they are going through IVF as well, and then we work with them because obviously if you're a same-sex male couple, no one's carrying, right. So we work with them as well, but then there are also sometimes not physical reasons, right? People. Their mental health matters. There are some folks that have gone through various traumas or losses, and they don't feel comfortable carrying anymore. And if that's the case, we will help them too.
Okay.
So.
Wow. And what is so we talked a little bit about this today, but what are some of the, when a prospective or a parent is looking into surrogacy and they, you're working with a caseworker and they, are selecting a surrogate, what does that look like? And how involved is your agency in helping them,
Very
organize
involved.
all of that?
Yeah, so what we want to do, we want to make sure that match is a good match, because that really defines everything. This is an incredibly long process, generally at least between 12 and 15 months once you're matched. And it's usually about a year wait to get matched.
Wow.
So we're looking at 2 years of a process going through all of this. So you really want to like the people you're working with, right? So, we as an agency make sure to capture a lot of preferences on both sides, both for the parents and for the surrogate. There are medical preferences, things like what level of testing you're comfortable with. But then there are also cultural and religious preferences, communication preferences, what kind of relationship do you want to have during and after the surrogacy. And so we capture all of that. Vaccination status, that's been a big one the past couple of years.
Think of that.
And so, we gather all that information, and then for the parents, we organize them into what we call matching cohorts. So these are folks that have very similar matching preferences and lifestyle backgrounds. So it's not a straight deli line. We organize them into these groups. And then once the surrogate gets through screening, we look at her matching preferences and we say, okay, she would fit well with this cohort over here.
Okay.
And so then we generally will present surrogate profiles based on how long someone's been waiting on the list. We want to make sure that we try to take care of our families that have been waiting the longest. And we work our way through that list. So we would send the parent's profile first to the surrogate. She can take a look and read their letter and pictures and all of their information. And if she expresses interest and says she'd like to get to know them more, then we send her profile over to the parents. Similarly, it lists all of her preferences, has a letter, pictures. You can even upload a private video on our system.
Okay.
So it is a little bit like online dating, that part of it.
Yeah.
But once everyone sees profiles and they feel comfortable and say, yeah, I'd like to get to know this person more, then we set up a facilitated meeting. It's facilitated by a case manager, because we know that conversation can be awkward at first. Hello, nice to meet you. Will you carry my baby for you? But we really want to make sure that everyone gets an opportunity to talk with each other, hear each other's stories, understand, what are their motivations for doing this on the surrogate side, for the parents to share what they've been through. And after that meeting, usually, folks do want to match, but we kind of will repeat that process. It's really about that quality of the match.
Okay. Yeah. And you have to go through an agency in order to arrange a surrogacy?
No.
You don't? Okay.
You don't.
So what are the benefits of working with an agency then?
So you can do an we call it independent journeys. So you can do this solo. Of course, yes, I am biased. We are an agency, but wouldn't recommend it. It is a complex process.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
We, as an agency, we bring in all the different players that are involved. We do a lot of the screening on the surrogate. So that means, reviewing and gathering all the medical records, doing all the background checks, credit checks. We send the surrogate for a full psychological evaluation and testing session along with her partner or spouse. We do all the coordination with the fertility clinics. We handle all the contracts, so there's 2 separate attorneys that are retained for that entire process, and then the insurance piece. So there's a lot of steps involved and a lot of professionals that are involved in this. And so having an agency, you have somebody that's coordinating all of that. It's like a conductor of a big orchestra.
So both parties always kind of have to keep, there's different steps and that you kind of coordinate and make sure that everyone's communicating and is on the same page.
Exactly. And we actually have a bunch of online tools. We have a whole secure portal with task lists. And so as you're walking through your journey, you can log in, you can see exactly where you are in the process, what your next steps are, and then your case manager. So there's a case manager that's always assigned to each family and journey. And so they're letting you know, okay, here's the next appointment. This is the next thing that you have to sign. This is the next thing we have to get done.
Do they have to live close to each other?
No, they don't.
Okay.
We as an agency, there are some large national agencies that pretty much will kind of recruit across the U.S. And match you with somebody anywhere. We are a local agency, and that's always been our focus. So we're really kind of in this greater Philadelphia area. So we come up here to, the edge of North Jersey. We'll go as far out as Lancaster County, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Far south is Delaware, and out to the Jersey Shore. So we're this kind of this 2-ish hour radius around Philadelphia. And so most our surrogates and our parents are in that radius too.
Well, that's nice because when they go into labor, I mean, so they're delivering at the facility where the parents wish they deliver, or how does that work?
It's usually worked out ahead of time. Some parents, they may have a particular preference regarding the delivery hospital, but most of the time they say, wherever the surrogate's delivered in the past that her OB has delivery privileges to.
Okay.
And that is a larger regional hospital, because we do want that hospital to have at least a level 3 NICU in case there are any kind of complications, because the last thing we need is then to also have to coordinate transport of baby if there are complications. So, most folks are delivering at, some of the larger virtual hospitals and things like that here in Jersey.
Okay.
And they are also very familiar with surrogacy in our agency, so it works out pretty well.
Does the caseworker come to the delivery too?
If she can, yeah.
Oh, if she can. Got it. Yeah.
Yes.
So if she's delivering quickly,
Right.
then she might not get there in time.
Exactly.
Oh, that's so interesting. So becoming a surrogate. So if someone is interested in becoming a surrogate, what are the steps that they need to, they apply, right? They gather more information from your center, and what would be the next step for them?
Sure. So definitely you have to complete a full application. What we'll do is we usually have our screening coordinator reach out when someone inquires, because we really want to have a conversation with you about what this process looks like and get to know you a little bit, understand what your motivations are, and explain kind of the pros and cons and even some of the risks associated with the process. Once somebody's comfortable with that, then we invite you to apply to the program. The application's pretty long, but we need to have your full medical history and all of your information. We get that reviewed, and then they go through a screening process. Less than 10% of applicants get through that screening process.
Do they have to be vaccinated?
No, they do not.
They don't. Okay.
We have a good mix. A lot of our carriers are, and a lot of parents do prefer vaccination, but we actually have a handful that request not.
Oh, okay.
So it is really, again, about that matching preference
Right.
and quality. And so, all of that information is gathered. We then will, like I said, go to all the original providers, gather all those records, review them. We do abide by kind of standards. There are standards that we have to follow regarding safety and surrogacy. So, for instance, you can't have any more than 3 C-sections. Right.
Okay.
You can't have any more than 5 pregnancies.
Oh.
And so we really want to make sure that the process is very safe for the carrier and safe for the baby.
Is there an age limit too?
Yeah. In general, we're operating between ages 21 and 42.
Okay.
So it's a pretty wide range.
Yeah.
There are some exceptions. We do have some women that apply to us. They're later in life, but, they've had a recent pregnancy. They're incredibly healthy, and that's fine. We then get them specially approved by the clinic to be able to proceed with the process. But once you go through screening, then we go through that matching process that I mentioned, where you get to see parent profiles and look over everything, and really be able to pick a family that's a good fit for you.
Right. So what are some of the reasons why someone would want to become a surrogate? It's an incredible gift to give to parents to become a family. But what are the different reasons why women come to you to become a surrogate?
Absolutely. So it's for sure, the number one reason, they're altruistically motivated. They want to help someone out. This is a completely unique way to help somebody. And, it's so precious. At the same time, we know that there are risks involved. It is a huge commitment. So they are compensated financially. We keep our compensation reasonable. I have seen in the last 10 years kind of compensation rates really skyrocketing. And that is, to attract more carriers. But, our agency really believes in affordability. And so we don't want these, compensation going through the roof. We really want people that are motivated to do this because they want to help somebody else. And the compensation is just an extra for them. So definitely for sure, women want to do this because they really want to help somebody else with a completely life-changing experience, and it's a special sisterhood when you go through this. Our agency, we maintain a few private support groups online, and so when you join, you are able to talk to other surrogates who have been through this, because it is a unique experience, and really chat with them about what they felt and all the different parts and pieces involved in it. But everybody that we talk to, they're like, this is what a way to give a gift to somebody.
Oh, yes, for sure.
And the thrill that you get when you see your intended parents' faces and they're holding their baby for the first time. It's incredible.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow. So what are some of the things that they experience during the course of pregnancy? Or do they communicate with the intended parents through as much as they want to, or what does that look like?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that, the culture of our agency is very open, very friendly. It is not a transaction. That's what we tell folks. You should be open to wanting to communicate with the intended parents. That being said, there's also, some healthy boundaries. And so most have a fantastic, friendly relationship. Everyone's just so excited that, this baby's on the way. It's a lot of effort. It's a team effort. And so it really feels like, as a team, you are working towards this common goal together. And so surrogates are often communicating all the usual bump updates and letting the parents know. Parents are absolutely encouraged to come to appointments when they can, especially some of those critical ones.
Okay.
So, the big ultrasound appointment in the middle of the pregnancy and all of that. And so
what happens if the intended parents don't want to find out the sex?
Yeah, so you can keep it private.
So the surrogate can find out and just not tell them, basically.
Exactly.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So
That's
we've
so funny.
had some cases where the surrogate knew and the parents didn't. It was kind of hard for her, but it was kind of fun. And then they've had, fun gender reveals later on where nobody knew. And then, sometimes, surprises at the very end where no one knew.
Oh,
so,
I love that. That's so interesting.
Yeah, you can do it any way you want.
We talked a little bit about this before too, but can the intended parents dictate what they eat?
Yeah, so I call it the peanut butter sandwich rule. And so, in the contract that you sign with your intended parents, there are guidelines. They're not over the top. These are the kind of the typical pregnancy guidelines that you would see. Don't go licking the handrails in the New York subway. Don't eat a bunch of mercury-laden fish.
Right.
But
no martinis.
Right, exactly. Try not to drink a ton of martinis. But at the same time, some parents, for instance, request that their surrogate eat organic or as healthy as possible, and my surrogates are absolutely fine doing that, and sometimes parents will even give them an additional grocery allowance to help with the cost of that, because all organic is expensive. Yeah. And so that is kind of defined in the contract. There are statements, but at the same time, the intended parents are not there over your shoulder making sure. And if anybody wanted to be like, that was not in the contract, you said, guess what? How's that going to be proven, right? There's a huge amount of trust that's in this process. And I always tell intended parents, yes, I get it. You've been through so much. This is really tough. You're trusting somebody with your most precious cargo and your baby, but she is taking care of herself probably better than she did even with her own pregnancies. She knows how important this is.
So they can't dictate how the if they wanted the baby to be born at home, can that be worked out amongst the both of them?
It can.
Okay.
And we do have midwife attended births, but at the same time, generally we don't recommend home birth just because of some of the additional risks that may be involved.
Right.
There are wonderful birth centers that are kind of affiliated with major hospitals, and so that's if folks are really leaning towards that side and they're like, look, let's have a midwife attended birth center experience. It's as close to a home birth as we can get, but at the same time, we have those resources. There's any distress, we can, quickly deal with that.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
And as a surrogate, if you, so you have to have had a child before, right?
Yes.
You have to be a parent.
Yes.
Do you find that many of the surrogates are women that enjoy being pregnant?
Yeah. I mean, you wouldn't want to do this if you don't enjoy being pregnant.
Well, because I have friends who loved being pregnant, and I have friends who are like, I'm never doing this again.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, I was not a good pregnant person. I was like, here's my eggs. You can have all the eggs you want, but me and pregnancy just don't mix very well. Love my girls.
I'm wondering if a lot of the moms that become surrogates are ones that didn't have extreme morning sickness and stuff like that. Are they?
Yeah. I mean, they generally had some very healthy, easy pregnancies, and they're just like, gosh, why wouldn't I do this for somebody else? You know, this really didn't impact me too much.
Right.
And this is another layer to your life. You're still able to work, go to spend time with your kids, do whatever your life continues on.
Right.
You just have this extra passenger on board for several
for
more
9
months.
right.
But most though enjoy pregnancy, really liked being pregnant, had very minimal complications, and so they want to do this for somebody else.
So how many of your clients, right, continue a relationship with their surrogate?
Most of them do.
Most of them
do. It's very friendly, because again, it's such a long process, and you'll get to know your surrogate and her family too, right? And so it's you're working on a team, right? It's like you spent 2 years with somebody, you're not going to suddenly not have a relationship with them. So very often everyone's, exchanging Christmas cards and things like that, and keeping in touch on social media. We do have some families that are extremely close to their surrogates, and just everyone becomes like best friends.
And they're invited to birthday parties.
Yeah, exactly.
And all of that.
The surrogate's almost like an honorary auntie, and everybody, tells the story and be like, look, all these people helped you come to be, and they tell their children about it. And then we have other folks that just, like I said, just stay in touch in a friendly manner, First birthday, here's a picture, hope you and your family are doing well, vice versa. So we do discuss that with both parties ahead of time. Most folks say, we just want to let it kind of evolve organically, and that's fine too. But I think in general, you should think about kind of what kind of relationship you want. Because the right match is out there for you. You don't have to want to be the honorary auntie.
Right.
But at the same time, if it's important for you to maintain that relationship, we absolutely have parents that would love to do that.
And how many of the surrogates that come to your center become a surrogate again?
As many, I would say most try to do it again if they can.
Okay.
Because we do adhere to the American Society of Reproductive Medicine standards regarding surrogacy, we have that 5 pregnancy limit. So if you had 3 kids already and you carried once, maybe you can carry one more time, but then after that, you can't.
Will they do it again for the same family?
Sometimes, yes.
That's so cute.
We do have repeat journeys and sibling journeys. And so, I was thinking we have a couple right now that are going on. And it's great because everybody's so comfortable with it. They've been through it before, and they're just kind of thrilled to do this again. Sometimes we'll have, though, a surrogate that'll carry for a different family in our program. And we have lots of families that come back for sibling journeys. A lot. I would say about a quarter of our families on our list are repeats. So they're wanting a sibling.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. So they, sometimes they develop a relationship, and sometimes they just kind of keep in touch, from a distance. From starting this 15 years ago, have you seen an increase? Has the statistic increased in percentage of pregnancies per year in surrogacy?
Yes, for sure. Yeah, surrogacy is growing. It's becoming much more popular. As you mentioned at the beginning, celebrities are being a lot more open about it. That's certainly helped. But in general, I would say that, reproductive medicine has evolved
advanced,
quite a bit.
Right.
And we're seeing, a lot more women that are starting families later in life. And because of that, then, sometimes you can run into some issues, right, as you get older. And so we're seeing a lot more folks that are needing help with carrying.
Okay. And what is your day like running the center? You have
Very
2 kids,
busy.
very busy. You're helping your clients and managing both centers, right?
Yes.
So you're in Hawaii too.
Yes.
So what does a week look like? I'm always so interested in moms who run their own businesses.
Absolutely.
And how they get it all done.
Yeah. So drop the kids off at school, and drink a lot of coffee, and then I, sit down, look at my calendar. Generally, I usually have 1 or 2 consultations a day. Those consults are long. It's not like
It's a lot of questions,
right? It's an
I have
hour
a million
and
questions, and I'm not becoming a surrogate.
Right. So I usually have a couple of intended parent consultations, really walking them through the process and letting them know how to get started. Then I am, of course, as the business side, right? So I'm doing my books. I am, sometimes running payroll. I'm reviewing marketing materials and other things that are being sent out from my staff, approving those and making any kind of edits. Then I kind of shift over to the case management side. So I'm checking in with my team of case managers. Sometimes there are issues or things that they need me to handle, or they need my judgment on, or they have questions on, and so I'm helping them work through that. We are a local agency, but we do have international parents as well.
Oh.
And so sometimes, I'm doing a very late night Zoom call because of time zones.
Right.
And so sometimes I'm working pretty late, but I try to, zip to school, pick up the kids in the afternoon, run them to all their afternoon activities, get everybody fed. And then, there's usually a couple of hours of work in the evening that I'm trying to,
wrap
get
up
things done.
and answer
as best as I
emails, all
can.
of that.
Yeah, and then some Netflix and then bed. Sometimes riding my Peloton, sometimes not.
I know. My Peloton's collecting dust at the moment, so I get it. So the consults that you have, is most of it done virtually, or you're meeting people in person too?
Yeah, it's a mix. I mean, I think that, we're happy to do either. Sometimes phone, sometimes Zoom, sometimes in person. It's just based on convenience. Folks are grabbing a Zoom call on their lunch break. I've literally talked to people and they're like eating lunch in their car as I'm doing the consult with them.
Right.
We make it work however we can make it work. We get it.
And how much of a commitment is it? Obviously, it's a huge commitment for the surrogate, but in terms of becoming the intended parents, are they in constant communication? Like, how are you? I guess there's certain steps in each month they kind of have to commit to different things.
For sure, yeah. And so the case manager is keeping them updated. As the surrogate's getting screened, of course, there's that intense period with the fertility clinic, about 4 to 6 weeks, where she's going in for appointments all the time, and that's the hardest part for the parents, right? Because very often they've already been the patient themselves, and now they're not the patient, but they're just right there watching everything happening. And so
to make sure the embryo takes
right. And so they're they've invested a lot financially, emotionally at this point, and you're just kind of crossing fingers, like, please let this one tape.
Wow.
And so that's tough. But once that pregnancy is confirmed, they're communicating very casually with the surrogate, but there's, a couple of appointments in the beginning. And then kind of in the middle of the pregnancy, we really get back with the lawyers and do a lot of the legal steps because the parents' names are on that birth certificate. So it doesn't say surrogacy, it doesn't say anything like that. It just is a regular birth certificate, but we have to do a lot of legal work on the back end to make sure that happens. So there's a lot of legal paperwork that happens kind of in the middle of the pregnancy. And then, preparing for the birth itself. So it is an intense process. You can't be hands off, but most parents aren't. They're so invested in this and wanting to support their surrogate and wanting to make sure that they're communicating really well with their case manager.
I feel like this would be a Hallmark movie, but has it ever happened where intended parents were struggling to get pregnant through IVF and then go the surrogacy route and then end up getting pregnant at the same time?
So yes, we have had that happen.
Yeah.
Yes, we have had that happen. Not very often, but there's a handful of cases where that happened. Everyone's thrilled, and then we go, so what do you want to do? We can do a sibling journey, which some parents are like, especially because they love their surrogate so much, they know how hard it is to get matched, and so they're like, we'll do a sibling journey and kind of run this simultaneously. But we've had some that just kind of took a pause and then kind of cleared through that first trimester, and they're like, you know what, I guess we're gonna kind of hang out here.
Oh, wow.
So we have had that happen, and if so, then we rematch the surrogate, but we'll kind of work with folks however they want to build their families.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah,
there's probably so many different things that you just see every day that
yes.
you wouldn't think to see, right? And you probably in essence also become like therapeutic to so many parents too, and hearing all of the different stories and just different circumstances and great things that you're doing. It's incredible. It's so interesting to me. Yeah,
it really is. It's incredible work. I work with a great team. They're all moms. Most of them all of our case managers have been surrogates themselves.
Okay.
So that kind of adds an extra element to it. Everyone's very invested in this process, passionate about it, and also empathetic. They understand what it's like to go through this. As kind of a mom and small business owner, you always have to guard out against your own burnout.
Right.
Because the moment that I'm so tired that I can no longer be empathetic to my clients is kind of a red flag for me, that I need to take a moment to kind of take care of myself a little bit and set some boundaries, because it's tough. This type of work, anyone that works in social services or case management or client services knows, like, you are giving everything to these people. They've been such fighters for so long that you have to fight with them, but at the same time fighting with 100 people, and helping all these teams go, it's exhausting.
Right.
And so, I do my best to try to keep that balance and to tell my team too, You can take a break, you can take a moment, you can not answer the call at 10 p.m. unless someone's in labor, then you answer. But, and set those boundaries because we can go through this process. It's such an emotional process. It's such a huge investment, but we can support people,
right,
and still set healthy boundaries. So,
yeah, it's very true. The burnout. We should do a podcast just about burnout because there's been weeks where you're just faced, and you're just by Friday. Sometimes it's just. Like I still do, but I like burn through like weekends working, and you're not producing as well. You're not like really being your best self, and taking that time to like just do other things and focus on other things other than your work will make you better when you return to work on whatever you need to do.
Exactly.
I don't listen to say Monday, but sometimes it's Sunday. But
and I think about like what I do for my girls too. As a mom and a business owner, you have to. Like I think about, okay, what kind of example am I setting for them, right? Like I want to show that, okay, you work hard, you serve other people, you take care of other people, you're empathetic, you're a helper. Right. You just help however you can. But at the same time, I don't want them burning the candle at both ends.
So true. And taking care of themselves, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And so I always struggle with that because I'm like, I know I'm supposed to be a good example for you as a mom, but...
Yeah, and they always see you just like going.
Right, cooking dinner on the phone and typing an email
and not
a
present
text.
And the guilt of not being present. Oh, I'm with you on that one. Yeah, and just, okay, in a minute. I'll get it in a minute.
Yes.
It's like my catchphrase, I think, in a minute.
Yeah. When my kids start texting me to ask things, I'm like, oh, okay, that's when I know. Like, my kids are like, I know you're on a call, so they're going to text me. Like,
yes.
Can I have
strawberries?
Right.
Like, first of all, the strawberries. Like, I need a strawberry farm of some kind in the yard. And two, it's getting a little, like, can you please, my daughter's 8, so, like, the knife thing has been like, is she old enough to, can I trust her cutting up the strawberries? But I get asked quite frequently, at least twice a day for strawberries. Not a bad problem. I mean, like,
right, it's strawberries and cheese in my house.
Okay.
You're right.
Strawberries and cheese. I'm strawberries and raspberries or grapes or whatever. I'm like, get your own grapes.
I know, right? So, I get it. It is one of those things where, definite challenge, like as a mom and a mom-run business. And I try to set a good example, like for my own girls, but then for our team, because I am the oldest, right? And so a lot of them are slightly younger parents, and I'm like, okay, guys, like, I know where
you are. I've been there. Yes.
Yeah. And I'm like, just take a minute. It's okay. You don't have to answer that email right now.
Right. Oh, that's so interesting. So I'm sure your girls look up to you, and I've had this conversation many times actually with so many moms who have older children or have raised their children and were business owners or working professionals where they were working like crazy, and they had that guilt, or maybe they had that guilt when they were younger, but really across the board don't anymore, because they all, and I've even asked like their grown children, like, how did you feel about your mom working so much? How did you feel about those years? And they all say across the board, like, I respected my mom. She showed me great work ethic. I wouldn't be who I am without her. So right. I know exactly what you're saying, but at the same time, like, I think we are setting good examples to the women that we're raising. So it's kudos to all of us trailblazing and making things more opportunistic for the women that are in our future, right? Our future leaders.
Exactly.
But they're still 11 and 14 now. So what do you do with them on the weekends? What do you like to do in Philly? I don't know enough about Philly. We were saying earlier, I have a sister who lives there. My cousin lives there. We went to Adventure Aquarium, which is not Philly. We're close.
Right across the
couple
bridge.
Months ago, but that's like the closest I've been. So tell me what you like to do when you have some downtime.
So we live in Manayunk as a neighborhood.
Okay.
And so it's fantastic. It's right on the water there. And so it's kind of an old mill area, and there's a canal, tons of great small businesses and restaurants, dog parks, regular parks for the kids too, and there's always events going on. And so we love to kind of walk Main Street and check anything out. And of course, we'll go into Center City too. There's tons of museums and festivals, but we'll even go further out. And, my littlest is a little nature child. And so she loves, and she rides horses. And so she rides her horse on Saturdays, but we'll try to get out and, go to various farms and the tulip farm and things like that.
Oh, so nice. I've read something recently there's a place to go see waterfalls. Is that anywhere near Philly?
Yeah, there's several hikes that you can go on that are all within like an hour of, so it's great.
You'll have to give me some tips.
Yeah, for sure. And we love to go out there and just kind of get away from the hustle and bustle, but at the same time, we do also love living in the city. Right. I mean, I love that we can walk to cafes and restaurants and anything that we need. And, even their school it's a city school, so, the curbside drop and all that fun stuff. But it's still great. Like, they're serving their neighborhood. They're doing community service projects right there. It's a really diverse neighborhood, which I really love. So, yeah. So.
Did you grow up in a city in Hawaii?
Yeah, I was suburbs of Honolulu.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And so, it's definitely, it was
a different.
Yeah.
Yeah, much different environment.
Very different from Philadelphia. But I'd say I probably am an East Coast city girl. I mean, I chose to come to college in Boston, and then kind of stayed on the East Coast in D.C. and then now Philly. So, yeah, I definitely like my city.
Cheesesteak. Are you a cheesesteak fan? Do you have a cheesesteak preference?
Yeah, yes. So, our neighborhood has two kind of warring cheesesteak places, and no, it's not Pat's and Gino's, which is a touristy place. It's Chubby's and D'Alessandro's, which are directly across the street from each other. Okay. Both very good.
I love cheesesteaks. I've been to both. It was Pat and Gino's. That was called.
Yeah, there's Pat's and Gino's. Yeah,
we've been to both. They were good. I don't know, but I've heard that you can get better. Right?
Oh yeah. There are so many other better places, and I'm a hoagie girl. I mean, I like my cheesesteaks, but a good good Italian. I'm great. And there's fantastic delis all around us, and you can just get great. I love just being able to walk into a small deli that's been family owned for like 70 years.
Wow.
And it's good. It's good. It's been good since your husband was a small child.
Did he grow up in Philly or?
He actually grew up in South Jersey.
Oh, okay.
But his dad worked for Pico, and so he's right across the river. So Philly is his hometown.
He knows
huge
it well.
Eagles fan. Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's so great. I love that. So where can everyone find you, the Surrogacy Center of Philadelphia, if you are interested in becoming a surrogate, or if you are, looking into surrogacy for your family? What's the best way to get in touch with you?
So we are all over the socials. If you look up Philadelphia Surrogates, you're going to pull up all of our various channels on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, you name it, even TikTok. And then, of course, our website, which is philadelphiasurrogates.com.
Okay. And you can also look for more information about the Surrogacy Center on our website. We've worked together for a couple of years, so there's some excellent editorial content on there, and just information about I think moms that have worked with you too.
Yeah.
So and we'll continue to put information out there too for the center. I think it's amazing what you do, and really just truly a gift to so many families in our area, and I'm sure across the country too. So thank you for coming on.
Thanks so much.
As I mentioned earlier, the Mom with Moms Springtime Festival is Sunday, May 7th. We have Touch a Truck, God willing, with the weather. But it'll be great. It'll be sunny. I don't even care if it's sunny as long as it's not raining. So we can have some awesome fun with the local fire department is coming from Homedale Police Department. We have Hackensack Meridian coming with an ambulance. We're doing a teddy bear clinic, I think, with them. We have some excavators coming and some cool, just some cool trucks of like a dump truck and a recycling truck and all kinds of stuff. So that'll be outside. And then inside we have all kinds of vendors, over 75 vendors for Mother's Day gifts and shopping. We have our kids zone. We have some new entertainment this year. So we have a magic show happening, Mommy and Me yoga from My Peace Place. We have Gymboree coming, Snapology, all kinds of fun stuff to do for kids of all ages, which is nice. So it's a really great community day at Bellworks in Homedale. We're really excited for that. And then also just look to us for information as we go into the spring and hopefully warmer summer months. Can't come quickly enough. Our summer camp guide is on the website now. Our home guide, if you're doing any projects or renovations, need some home improvement, that just went live this week. And our birthday party guide too. So if you're struggling to get your birthday party planned, or you just want someone to do it, there's lots of good resources in there too. So as always, make sure to visit themonmouthmoms.com for your go-to resource for all things Monmouth County, New Jersey. And enjoy your day, everyone. Thanks so much.
Thanks, everybody.